because I knew that I couldn't do them perfectly. Now, you may say that's a little neurotic for a 3-year-old, and to you, I would say, well, I clearly know that there are people in here who are breastfeeding at the age of 12, so y'all need to just calm it down. But things got better as time went on. School was really easy because, you learn the facts, you can be perfect on the test. But complex human interactions were always much more challenging for me. So, for example, back in high school, I decided I really liked this girl, so I called her up on a landline phone. And I spent a little game. I scored a big date on Saturday. And we were going to the Cloisters Museum to look at some fucking French medieval lamps or some whatever fucking boring shit she was into. I don't know, I thought I could get a hand job out of the whole thing. It was like, that's where my head was at. So I got ready that day. I went downstairs. I was looking fresh. I turned around to say goodbye to my mom. And I always remember my mom sitting at the kitchen table, and she's silhouetted in the sun, and she's shaking. And she's looking down at her hands, and her hands are filled with her hair. And she's crying so hard she can't sit still because my mom had breast cancer. And the chemo was trying to kill it and was also strangling every other part of her body in the process. And she never looked up at me. And I looked at her, and I zipped up my jacket, and I turned around, and I walked out the door without saying a word. Because that's how I dealt with my mom when she was going through pain and suffering. I was a ghost. Because I was intentionally not there for her because I didn't know how to do it correctly. So I just was never there. And of course, she made it past the cancer, and time went on, and she never said she was disappointed in me, but I never forgave myself for those times. I mean, I don't care what kind of teenager or how emo you are, I don't care. Like, what kind of son leaves his mom out to dry when she's fighting for her life? And that was a pattern that continued for the rest of my life. I would sabotage myself professionally. I would sabotage every relationship with a woman I was ever in because the world was getting too big and too difficult to control and just impossible to be perfect in. So then last fall, my mom calls me up and she tells me that after 14 years, her cancer came back. And I could just feel the universe shaking me awake and saying, listen, this time it has to be different. So the plan was she was getting this huge, high-risk, highly dangerous surgery, 12 hours, 2 surgical teams, and I'm the doctor's son. So I spent every day on the phone, text messaging both of her surgeons for a month and a half, and got all the information because I knew she had to understand all this so she could ask the right questions. But the information's one thing. I was going to be damned if this time around I wasn't there for her to support her. Okay, so I woke up with an idea, and I emailed all of the closest people, the closest of the closest people to me for my entire life, and the message was simple. It was like, hey guys, my mom's cancer came back, and I'm half a country away, and she is using all of her energy just to wake up in the morning. So what I've learned over the last couple months is that sometimes you have to give up what you can't control. And you gotta let the hands that enfold you just lift you up. So please lift her up. And the response was overwhelming. Just funny stories and Bible verses and poetry. And I would pick one of these every other day and just send it to her. And all she could ever tell me was that they were always on time. And the great thing about this was that, it's not just that she knew that people cared about her, but it's that the love and the lessons that she lived her life through, people were getting that all over the country through me and how I lived my life. And I just hope that those stories just brightened up the darkest of the days. But then, all of a sudden, it's surgery day.
Hello?
And it's just the two of us in the room before she goes. And she starts shaking again. And the tears come down. And there was not one bone in my body that wanted to run away. And I wrapped her up, and she just started saying, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And what happens to you and your brothers if something happens to me? What if this is it? What if this is it? What if this is the end? And I don't know how many of you guys have looked your parents in the eye when they think that they're gonna die, but it feels impossible. And so all I could think to say was, listen, your work isn't done, but today you gotta let us do the work for you. And then it was time, and she was going, and just in a flurry, she was just rolling off to the operating room, and I didn't realize at the time, but I was singing there. And it's the song that always reminded me of my mom. And it's from the Muppet movie, of all things. It's one that, someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. She was gone. And for 14 hours, I didn't breathe. And then she woke up, and her 3 boys were sitting at her bedside.
Hello?
And all the cancer was gone, and she didn't need more chemo. And a few days later, I asked her, hey, was I there for you this time? And she said, thank you. Please forgive yourself, because I'm so proud of you. So, to you guys tonight, what I'd say is sign your whole name on your finger paints, because someone's going to put it up on the fridge, because your best is always good enough. And your best may be someone else's perfect.
Great story. Thanks for sharing. So, Tony, we had sound check earlier before everybody showed up, and you were running a little bit late today. And I'm wondering, what were you up to?
I was in the operating room, saving lives and shit.
Tony is a surgeon. He's a surgeon. You were in surgery, right? You were performing surgery. What did you work on?
Oh, today, someone who can't really breathe through their mouth, but breathes through their neck. We're doing our best to get them back to normal. So,
do it.
We'll see. They're in the hospital right now.
So. Wow. Tony. All right, folks, there he is. Here's Tony, everybody. Give him a big round of applause. All of you great storytellers, come on up. Freddie, Laura, Damien, Arnie.